My name is Becca, and when I moved into Riley Hall as a freshman, I thought I was starting a new life. Instead, I stepped into a nightmare that still clings to me like a shadow. They called the room next to mine the suicide room, a place where death left its mark, where the air itself felt wrong. But the truth was worse. It wasn't just next door. It was in my room, in the walls, in the mirrors, waiting for me to see it. Let me tell you a story that haunts me every night, a story that might make you afraid to look behind you. I was beyond excited to start college with my best friend, Lydia. We were assigned room 734 in Riley Hall, an ancient building with creaky floors and a sour, musty smell, like decay had seeped into the walls decades ago. The hallways were narrow, lined with flickering lights that buzzed faintly, casting shadows that seemed to twist when I wasn't looking. Cold drafts slipped through the cracks, brushing my skin like invisible fingers. But we didn't care. We were together, and that's what counted. We spent the first morning unpacking, taping up posters, and turning the cramped room into our own. Our resident advisor, Beth, stopped by, all bubbly and bright. She said we worked fast, noticing our made beds and hung clothes. She picked up one of Lydia's drawings, a dark, skeletal figure with eyes that seemed to follow you, and asked if it was from a horror movie. Lydia was irritated, but I just smiled. Then Beth mentioned the building's history, saying it was one of the oldest on campus, with ghost stories floating around. But she laughed and said they were just rumors before leaving. Her words stuck with me, though, like a splinter under my skin. What kind of stories? That night, as I tried to sleep, a sound came from next door. A low, grinding scrape, like something heavy dragging across the floor, followed by a sharp slam, as if a window had been forced shut. I asked Lydia if she heard it, and she said it was probably the wind, but the air felt thick, oppressive, like something was pressing against the wall, watching us through the darkness. The next morning, I looked out our window and saw that both windows in room 733, the room next door, were wide open, even though it was supposed to be a locked supply closet. I told Lydia, but she said I was overreacting. Over the next few weeks, the noises grew worse, more deliberate. One night, I was alone in our room, typing on my laptop, when I heard knocking from the closet, the one that shared a wall with 733. It was soft at first, then louder, like someone was clawing to get out. I thought Lydia was messing with me, so I shouted for her to stop. But when I yanked open the closet, it was empty. Just clothes and boxes swaying slightly, as if something had brushed past them. I turned around, and Lydia was in the doorway, just back from class. I told her about the knocking, and she said I was imagining things, but her eyes flickered to the closet, uneasy. I knew I wasn't crazy. Something was in that room next door, and it was reaching out to us. The disturbances didn't stop. Whispers started seeping through the wall, faint and sinister, like a voice muttering just beyond my hearing. One night, they were so loud that Lydia pressed her ear to the wall, saying she could almost make out words. Something about never and fools. Then a loud bang echoed from the other side, and she stumbled back, saying her ear was ringing. I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed into the hallway and pounded on 733's door. yelling for whoever was inside to stop. No one answered, but when I knelt and peered under the door, my blood froze. The room was dark. Its veins pulsed beneath its skin, and it whispered my name, Becca, slow and deliberate, like it knew me. I screamed and scrambled back to our room, slamming the door. I told Lydia what I saw, and though she tried to stay skeptical, she started to believe something was wrong. One evening, I went to the dorm bathroom to shower, hoping the hot water would calm my nerves. The bathroom was old, with cracked tiles and a single flickering bulb. As I dried my hair in front of the mirror, the air grew colder, and the reflection seemed off. My face looked distorted, my eyes too wide, my mouth curling into a smile I wasn't making. I blinked, and for a moment I saw that figure from 733 behind me, its long fingers reaching for my shoulder. I spun around, but no one was there. When I looked back at the mirror, my reflection was normal, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't tell Lydia. She was already on edge, but I knew it was following me now. Not just in our room. We decided we couldn't stay there anymore. We requested a room change, but they told us it would take time. So, we stopped sleeping in 734, staying with our boyfriends, Ian and Mike, instead. One day, I met Alice from Resident Services, who knew about 733. She told me there had been 5 suicides there. Ellen in 1961, Tad in 1968, Marissa in 1975, Erin in 1979, and Eric in 1992. All alone when they died. She said Ellen's death was the strangest. Rumors swirled that Ellen and her friends had played with a Ouija board in 733, trying to contact spirits. Something answered, but it wasn't what they expected. Ellen started acting strange, drawing horrible things, whispering to herself, until she climbed out the window one night. Alice said the university covered it up, but the room was never the same. Then Alice dropped a bombshell. When the dorm was expanded, the room numbers shifted. Our room, 734, was the original 733, the suicide room. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. We'd been living in the heart of it all along. I rushed back to tell Lydia, my mind racing with nightmares I'd started having. Dreams of that gray figure standing at the foot of my bed, its long fingers brushing my face, whispering promises of rest if I just let go. When I reached our room, the door was ajar, and the air inside was icy, like a grave. The floor was littered with drawings, twisted, grotesque images of death, decay, and things so vile I gagged looking at them. They were Lydia's, but not her usual art. Something else had guided her hand, something that wanted to break her. The window was open, and Lydia was gone. I ran to the window, but it was too late. Below, a crowd was forming, their screams piercing the air. I learned later that Lydia had spent the night alone in our room, angry after a fight with Mike. Whatever was in there had driven her to climb onto the ledge and jump. Those drawings were her last act, filled with horrors that made my stomach churn. Images of faces with no eyes, bodies torn apart, and that gray figure, always in the background, smiling. I never went back to that room. My parents moved my things, and I finished the semester off campus. I transferred to another school, trying to outrun the nightmares. But every year I check if Riley Hall is still open. Every year, the 7th floor stays closed. Until this year. I called late, and they told me they're opening the 7th floor again. They said there's a waiting list, but I might get in. I hung up, my hands trembling. That thing is still there, waiting in the shadows, whispering through the walls. And I can't stop wondering who it'll take next. Every night I dream of Lydia on that ledge, her face pale, her eyes empty, like something else was staring through her. I feel the cold air from that window, hear the whispers calling my name. If you've ever felt a presence in your room, something you can't see, but know is there, maybe you understand.
Imagine a single photograph, a glossy image from a 1996 Kmart teen fall catalog. It's the only known picture of a girl named Kaylee Huston. A girl who, one summer evening, vanished without a trace. But this isn't just a story of a missing person. It's a tale that will make you question reality itself. A mystery that twists and turns like a shadow in the dark. So sit back, dim the lights, and let me tell you the chilling story of Kaylee Huston. The move it was May 1996, when the Huston family left their quiet life in Shawndale, Arizona, for the bright lights of Glendale, California. The family, Jay and Diana Huston, their daughters, Kaylee, Paula, and Gina, and their beloved dog, Pepper, were ready for a fresh start. Kaylee, at 19, was the eldest, a shy but strikingly beautiful girl with long dark hair and piercing blue eyes. She had always been the center of attention in Shawndale, with neighbors urging her to pursue modeling or acting. But Kaylee was introverted, content with her homeschooled life, until everything changed. That change came when Kaylee auditioned for her local high school's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Though not a student there, she won the role of Hermia and discovered a love for the stage. The applause, the lights, the magic of performing, it transformed her. Suddenly, she dreamed of Hollywood, of making it big in Los Angeles. Her family, seeing her newfound passion, and with nothing holding them back in Shawndale, decided to make the move. It was perfect timing. Jay had just retired, Diana was between jobs, and the girls were at ages where a change of scenery could be beneficial. Even Pepper seemed ready for a new adventure, though tragically, she wouldn't make it to California. Just before the move, Pepper was attacked by some animal in the woods near their home. Kaylee found her, barely alive, her throat torn, one eye gouged out, and her collar missing. It was a horrific sight, one that haunted Kaylee. But with the move, they hoped to leave that trauma behind. The new house in Glendale was charming, a classic craftsman style, the oldest in the neighborhood, built in 1933. It was smaller than their previous home, but full of character. The family spent their first day unpacking, exploring their new surroundings, and dreaming of the future. But as the sun set on that first evening, something unsettling happened. Strange occurrences. The house came unfurnished, except for a single landline telephone in the hallway between the kitchen and living room. That evening, as the family settled in, the phone rang. It was odd, because their phone service hadn't been set up yet. Kaylee, closest to the phone, answered it on instinct. But there was no one on the line, just static, crackling like a distant storm. Then a voice, so soft it was almost a whisper, repeated a phrase, over and over. "I'm reaching for you. I'm reaching for you with my little fingers." Kaylee hung up quickly, her hands trembling. When her mother asked who it was, she said it was a wrong number, but her voice betrayed her fear. Diana noticed, but didn't press further, chalking it up to the stress of the move. The next morning, Jay was on the phone with the moving company, arguing about lost boxes, when the family was startled by the sound of a dog barking outside. But they didn't have a dog anymore. Pepper was gone. Jay stepped out to investigate and found under one of the lawn chairs on the porch a small red collar, torn and stained with blood. It was Pepper's collar, the same one that had been missing when she was attacked. The family was baffled. How could it be here? They had left Shawndale weeks ago, and Pepper had been buried there. Kaylee was convinced it was a sign, something ominous, but her parents tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was left behind by the movers, a coincidence. But deep down, they all felt uneasy. As days turned into weeks, the Houstons settled into their new life. Kaylee pursued her modeling dreams, landing a gig with Tori Michelle Model Factory for a Kmart teen shoot. She was thrilled, making friends with other models and planning outings. But on the night she was supposed to go out with them, she backed out, choosing instead to stay home with her family, playing board games. That night, at 3 a.m., the sound of a dog barking woke them all. Jay checked outside, but found nothing, except for that collar, which Diana had thrown away, was back on the porch. This time, the family couldn't ignore it. Kaylee was adamant that something was wrong, that Pepper's spirit, or something else, was trying to communicate. But without any proof, without even a photograph of Pepper to confirm it was her collar, they were left with more questions than answers. You see, in the chaos of the move, several boxes had been lost, including all their family photos and photo albums. There was no picture of Pepper, no picture of Kaylee, nothing to prove their past existed. It was as if their history was being erased. On June 25th, 1996, everything changed. That morning, Jay reported his wallet stolen, a wallet that contained the only photo he carried of Kaylee. That evening, Kaylee disappeared. She had gone out to meet friends, but never made it home. Witnesses reported seeing a girl matching her description, walking quickly along Brand Avenue, looking upset and anxious. But no one could confirm it was her. The last confirmed sighting was at a Burger King on Brand Avenue at 6:35 p.m., where she was seen leaving to head home and meet her sisters for a movie. The Houstons were frantic. They called the police, but when asked for a photograph of Kaylee to aid in the search, they realized they had none. Kaylee had been homeschooled, so there were no yearbook photos. All their family pictures had been lost in the move. Even the single portrait Jay kept in his wallet was gone, stolen along with it. Desperate, the family contacted Tori Michelle Model Factory, hoping for photos from Kaylee's Kmart shoot. But they were told the negatives and all copies had been sent to Kmart's headquarters in Illinois 2 weeks earlier, and no copies remained. They reached out to Fairview Valley High School, where Kaylee had performed in A Midsummer Night's Dream, but the cast photo had been vandalized during a break-in, and Kaylee's portion was missing. The drama teacher who took the photo had died months earlier, leaving no way to recover the original. Without a single image of their daughter, the police had little to work with. The Houstons were left in limbo, their desperation growing with each passing day. The search. Months passed, and the search for Kaylee continued. But without a photograph, it felt hopeless. The Hustons waited anxiously for the Kmart Teen Fall catalog to be published, knowing it would contain the only known image of their daughter. When it finally arrived in August, they copied the single glossy photo and plastered it on missing person posters all over Los Angeles County. But Kaylee was never found. Witnesses came forward with vague sightings, but nothing concrete. The police followed every lead, but without evidence, without even a clear image of Kaylee, their efforts were futile. As time went on, the family began to unravel. Jay grew bitter and angry, consumed by blame. First the movers, then the police, then anyone who would listen. Diana and the girls tried to hold things together, but the weight of Kaylee's disappearance was too much. 4 years later, the family separated. Diana and the girls moved back to Shawndale, then to Florida, where Diana now lives with Paula, who cares for her as Alzheimer's slowly erases her memories. Sometimes, late at night, Diana mistakes Paula for Kaylee and calls out for Pepper, her voice trembling with a grief that time cannot heal. Gina, the youngest, never recovered from the loss. She died of an overdose in 2007, another tragedy in a family already broken. But the story doesn't end there. In November 2013, a break-in was reported at the home of Andrew Michel, son of the owner of Tori Michel Model Factory. At first, it seemed like a robbery, but the damage was more like that of a small animal. Files torn apart, chaos left behind. Nothing was stolen. The police chalked it up to a raccoon or some other creature. But what if it wasn't? And now, with Kmart closing its doors for good, those original photographs, 40 in total, from Kaylee's shoot, might surface again. Or perhaps they're better left lost. Because sometimes, when you dig too deep into the past, you might find something that was never meant to be found. Something that whispers in the dark. Something with little fingers reaching out for you. So what happened to Kaylee Houston? Was she taken by something supernatural, something that whispered through phone lines and left bloody collars on porches? Or was it something more sinister, something human, hiding in plain sight? We may never know. But one thing is clear. Kaylee Houston vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a single photograph. A glossy image from a 1996 Kmart Teen Fall catalog. If you have any information about Kaylee Houston or those missing photographs, well, maybe it's best to let sleeping dogs lie. But if you're brave enough, share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think there's more to this story? Is there a supernatural force at play? Or is it just a tragic mystery with no answers? Let me know your theories.